Bills Mafia is back. Are you ready for it? The third annual Buffalo Rumblings IPA beer release party is going down September 16th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Resurgence Brewing Company located downtown at 55 Chicago Street. I'm going to tell you what, you do not want to miss this event. Come out and hang with Joe, Sarah, and the rest of the Buffalo Rumblings crew for the Megapod. You're going to want to bring your questions and be a part of the live stream. Get involved. It's going to be live. And this year, we're also going to have our friends from Fans of Buffalo joining the party and sponsoring the fun. They're going to be in the house to provide you with all the information you need to make your away game day experience the easiest and the most smooth that you've ever had in your life. I can promise you, they do their job very well. So make sure you make it out Saturday, September 16th, 6 p.m., Resurgence Brewing Company, 55 Chicago Street. Go Bills.
Nationwide, worldwide, once again, it is time for Line to Gain. I am the big O, Jerry Ostroski. She is Sara Larson. We're on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. Hey, join in. It's going to be live. And we come live to you every Wednesday night at 9.
Poor Spence.
8 Central. It's live. What can I say?
Join us. It's live. Yes, we're live. He's going to hate me for pointing that out to you now.
You got a lot to talk. Hey, man, if friends can't kid, who can?
True.
Kid, right?
True.
Man, we've got a tremendous amount to talk about tonight.
Yes.
Obviously, the Buffalo Bills losing overtime to the Jets on Monday night. We'll talk about that game. We'll dig a little bit into the Raiders game coming up this Saturday or this Sunday, home opener in Orchard Park, New York. Last 15 minutes of the show. We'll bring to you a little bit of college football. We kind of switched things up this year. Sarah brought to my attention this cool this app on CBS Sports. So we're picking games every week. We'll talk about that a little bit. We can talk about the obvious being Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes now 2-0 as they move up in the AP poll. And then, of course, Texas goes into Tuscaloosa, beats Alabama. And we can talk about that a little bit as well.
Hey, we have to say that my Hurricanes also beat Texas A&M, a ranked team. Come on, we'll get into that just a little bit.
I never thought I would say it was Texas A&M. I mean,
oh God, here we go. All right,
A&M's going to Texas A&M, right? No, seriously, good win for Miami. Hey, I'm a firm believer, and I really believe this, and I wish it was the way it was in the '80s when I was a kid. I mean, the college football is better when Florida State, Miami, and Florida are really, really good.
We're 2/3 of the way there.
Well,
sorry to my Gators fans.
But Sarah, obviously, let's start with this, and we'll move forward. You were obviously at MetLife Field. You were at the game. I would be amiss if we didn't just go ahead right off the bat and just kind of what you experienced as far as the crowd in the stadium and go 4 plays, 17 seconds into the start of the 2023 NFL season. Aaron Rodgers goes down with a season-ending injury. Just kind of give us a kind of feel what's going on in the stadium.
Well, I honestly think that most fans had no idea how serious it was going to be. When I started getting a couple of the messages coming through saying that people were concerned that it was his Achilles. And everyone's like, if it was Achilles, they would just say it's an Achilles. And I'm like, no, it's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to be very, very cautious with what they say. They just, brought this guy over to potentially, take them on a Super Bowl run. They're not going to let anything out until they're 100% sure. And they also probably didn't want to demoralize the team, that people start hearing, what it could potentially be and whatnot. But we started off, I thought we looked good. I really did, wasn't too impressed with a couple of things, but we were moving the ball on their defense. That's the first thing I will say that I noticed. We were moving the ball. Obviously, we weren't running the ball as much as I would have liked. 3 yards of carry is not gonna work this day and age. But we were throwing the ball well. Stephon Diggs had a tremendous game. And I'm sure we're going to get into it very, very soon, but Josh Allen did not. And you and I have had those conversations in the past where, he always gets the pass and no one ever, really puts the blame on him. The blame's on him this week. The blame is on him. Let me, before we get too deep into this, let me go ahead and play our sponsor, our Buffalo Rumbling sponsor ad this week. So then we can dive into it and hear everything that, we both have to say.
It's time to say goodbye to the blur and hello to clear vision. Fichte, Endel, and Elmer are the first in Western New York to bring you Zeiss Smile technology. Along with our highly experienced surgeons, we promise an effortless journey to better vision. Gone are the days of fumbling for glasses or struggling with contact lenses. Embrace the freedom of superb sight, because we believe you deserve the world in HD. Visit us online at Fichte.com and schedule a consultation. Fichte, Endel, and Elmer. We are focused on you.
Here and this is kind of, and I didn't really normally when you have a game, especially in a win, I think that before we do our show, you do a ton of prep work and you dig into the all 22, you try to get stats and you try to formulate this idea in your mind of why things happened. I think this week was so raw and the way things went down, it was very blatantly obvious to me the things that the Bills did well and the things the Bills did not do well. And the first thing I want to address is this. And I truly believe that Ken Dorsey had an excellent game plan to start the game. I think Dorsey was prepared. He understood the challenge at hand, which was our offensive line, while drafting Osiris Torrent second, bringing in McGovern, we were and let's face facts, 99% of the league is going to be mismatched against this Jets front seven.
Mm-hmm.
This Jets front seven is you could probably go back to the New York Sack Exchange and those defenses back then. This is that type of defense. They are dominant. They make plays. They alter games. And I thought that Dorsey did an excellent job of taking what was given to him. The little dump passes, shorten it up, run just enough to where, 3 yards wasn't a great average, but it kept you in front of the chains and it kept things in, they went ahead and started breaking some outside and doing some different things. He attacked that kind of that curl area or that hitch area. And I thought he did a really good job. And then Clark Kent went into the phone booth and came out as Superman. And I said this on Twitter, Sarah, and you probably saw it. I go, I really wish.
You mean the other way around?
Yeah, I said, you know what? I really wish Superman sometimes would just be Clark Kent. And at the beginning of the game, he was Clark Kent. He was doing exactly what he needed to do. And then the term that the kids use, or I guess most people use nowadays, the term is hero ball. And are
you talking about Dorsey still, or are you talking about Josh?
I'm talking about Josh. I've moved on to Josh.
Okay.
And Josh decided to play hero ball. And it wasn't enough to get 8 yards a pop, 10 yards a pop. Diggs with a rack run after the catch, picks up 15. Diggs had 10 catches and had over 100 yards. He was being productive. Then all of a sudden they start getting Kincaid involved after a quarter and a half. I had to send out an APB. That was the one thing that was concerning to me, is I didn't know where he was. I'd like to have seen him involved a little bit more, but they started bringing him in and getting him involved. And I thought the offense was doing exactly what it needed to do. Josh goes down the field. He ad-libs off program, hits Diggs for the touchdown. Okay. And then for whatever reason, and I'd really like to know what you believe is the reason. And I don't necessarily think it's arrogance. I don't know if it's overconfidence. It's some call it arm envy or whatever. but he decides that he feels he needs to throw for these huge chunks of yardage. That was not the defense to do it against.
Right.
Dorsey had a good game plan put together. They were going to be fine, especially with Rodgers out. And then you let him back in the game and you get what you get.
I think that the problem with Josh is when Josh has an error, he feels like he needs to erase that error from everyone's mind by doing something extraordinary.
That's a good point.
And I think that it ends up biting him in the ass sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes he ends up, doing exactly the Kansas City game a couple years ago. He had a couple of, errors, wasn't playing all that great. And then midway through the third quarter, he hits Gabe Davis for that touchdown. And then all of a sudden, both him and Mahomes go off for the next quarter and a half.
Right.
So there are moments where he has had that mentality that has actually worked well for him.
Right.
I think that this, the moment on Monday, we could have won a game where it was just a defensive battle. It was just the back and forth of the defenses. Right. We had that game. And for some reason, because of, the turnover that he knew clearly was his fault, I feel like he tried to take too much under his own belt and just do stupid things. And I was just going to say, we've seen, Diggs on the sideline saying, be smart. We saw, McDermott say, use your head. And maybe that's not great to see those guys saying that to him now, because of course the national media is going to take it and run with it.
Right.
But it's what needs to happen. And I remember when, and I think earlier Triggs put it on here, that, sometimes we think that Dorsey probably should be on the sideline. And we've had these conversations. Dayball was at one point.
And what did Dayball do?
Yell at him all the effing time.
It is obvious. It's obvious to me. And there's different types of players. And Triggs's point, I think, and it was something I was going to bring up, and I'm glad he brought it up. There's some players that need to be padded, and there's some players that need a foot in their ass. Josh, to me, seems to be a guy. Carl Mock, who coached me when Wade Phillips was there, Carl used to have a saying, you can't handle prosperity, right? And I think Josh is kind of one of those guys. He gets to playing good. He feels good about himself. He loses concentration, and then he reverts back to careless Josh. And I think you're right. I mean, is it time for Dorsey to come to the sidelines so that if he has to, instead of throwing a laptop or an iPad, banging it on the counter in the press box, he can get after his quarterback and
smack him around a little bit. Right. I don't care.
And I was one of those guys. Like they needed to grind on me. I was a guy that needed to be yelled at to get motivated. That's what I was. Not everybody's that way. Yeah. But it seems to me that he's that type of quarterback. That he needs to be redirected when he gets off the train track.
And I think that's the difference between Daboll, though, and Dorsey. I don't know if you're going to get that from Dorsey, but he needs to figure it out. He needs that frustration, that the way that he can get, he needs to get that way towards Josh directly. We have Joe Brady, who's the quarterback coach, who was supposed to be the one on the sidelines doing all this stuff. Have him be up in the booth watching. And, conveying everything down to Dorsey on the sidelines of what he's seeing. It needs something needs to happen. And, if Josh comes out and has another game like this, they need to bench him for the rest of the game. They need to prove to the rest of the team that he's not above, preparation, being that leader. He's not above all that. He needs to get his head on straight. And if you're not, then don't play. As much as we love, as much as we all love Josh, and I'm going to play a little clip because after we are done, ragging on Josh, I do want to talk about the defense a little bit. Most people probably heard Dan Orlovsky. I always kill his.
Dan's a fellow Polak. His name is Orlovsky.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm going to kill his last name. Most people probably have heard it, but I just want to play it because this is the sentiment. Josh needs to grow up.
I love Josh. I'm a huge fan of the person as well. Last night is one of those games where you sit there and you watch it with him. If I was his coach, and I would look him dead in the eye and go, "Bud, we got to grow up. Like, we got to grow up, man. We can't have this conversation all the time about when Aaron Rodgers goes down, there's one chance, one way they lose that football game. And for $250 million, it can't be because of you, dude. And I understand that you think you're great, you are, and you're competitive, you are. I love all that. It's why you're great. We got to grow up. We got to handle this situation better. We got to handle.
All right, I cut it short because I didn't want everyone to have to go through the whole thing. But he goes on to say that, like, this can't happen every week. He said he had 7 or 8 plays that he wrote down that Josh was just out of control. Like, you don't want to hear that's sugar high Josh. That's the Josh that we had in 2019, 2020. That's not what you want. That's 6 years in.
That term is so funny.
Sugar high Josh?
Yes, every time I hear it, I laugh. I can't stop laughing.
But, I mean, it's 100%, though, even as much as we all love Josh, there comes a point in time, season 6, he needs to figure out this part because all of a sudden he seems to be regressing and no one wants to see that. No one wants to see, we all have given him our heart and our confidence. No one wants to see him regress at this point.
Now, this is an interesting comment. Renaissance Man, what he says about it, he thinks it's boredom. He wants it now, has the arm to attack any part of the field. Rather, that's the issue. If this is what he thinks and this is what he continues to do, he will be unemployed.
Yeah, then become your own OC. Sorry, I almost just went. Sarah almost came out. I'm sorry, I had to remember we're live. What the heck is the point of having an OC if you're just going to do whatever the heck you want?
The deal is to take the game plan and execute it the way it's supposed to be executed. This is not a chump Jets defense. This is an elite defense that will be in the top 3 at the end of the year. This is a defense that rivals the 49ers. This is a defense that rivals the Dallas Cowboys right now. If you watch them on Sunday Night Football, this is a defense that creates havoc, shuts things down, and creates turnovers. They do that on their own. They don't need help from a guy throwing into double and triple coverage. And it's to me, that's if he's bored, then he needs to go do something else. Because You know what's not boring? Winning football games, going to a Super Bowl. Those types of things are not boring. And I thought Dorsey catches so much flack. And it's amazing because what this reminds me of, and Sarah, you're an NBA fan, and so you kind of follow some of these things. When the Seattle Supersonics moved to Oklahoma City, okay, they stole the franchise from Seattle. The first so many years of this team in Oklahoma, they could do no wrong. Russell Westbrook was the most beloved character of all time, right? And then all of a sudden, people got sick of Russ going 3 for 30 from the 3-point line, right? And you could feel it all when the fan base began to turn on Russ. We haven't had that yet with Josh. I don't know if it's because of the 17-year drought. We finally get the quarterback we want. There has not been this level of accountability with him in his entire time in Buffalo. And it took Monday night to finally get a fan base and a city to start deciding to hold this guy accountable. He's making $250 million, okay? Your money that buys all these. So while I don't agree with just going out there and screaming ignorant stuff at players, I don't think just because you have a ticket, then you have that right, but that's a whole nother episode of this show. I do believe that you have the right to hold these guys accountable.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that to me,
just to let you know, as a joke, Matt just texted me. He's the head of Buffalo Rumblings. He just texted me, "Are you drinking margaritas?" Yes, I am, Matt.
So, it's when you look at this, and I think that is really kind of the biggest issue with the whole team right now. I mean, I don't want to hear the whole, hey, we got this, we're boys, we love one another, we got this, we'll be okay next week.
Yeah.
I hear that over and over and over again. That's not accountability.
Right.
And at some point in time, that's fine and dandy. I'm glad you guys are great buddies. It's time to do things the way you're supposed to do them.
Yeah, it's going to ruin that. It's going to ruin that buddy, thing again. We just got done with the whole drama with whether or not, Josh and Steph were okay. And that's going to put them right back, into that, that mindset.
You might see some T-shirts Sunday in Orchard Park that say Steph was right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We were on Steph about get over it. No, it might not. It could be that Josh has been in the wrong, but we haven't made him accountable for all this crap. But what I wanted to also talk about before we move on to next week, because, obviously I would like to close the door on Monday night.
We haven't even talked about the defense yet.
Yeah, that was my transition to the defense. So the inactive list, we had Elam and we had Hamlin on the inactive list. A little bit surprising for me heading into the week.
Elam but then being on there was very surprising to me.
But then seeing the PFF grades. So I made a mistake. I signed up for PFF in the off season and for that 30-day free, I forgot to cancel it. So now you guys are going to hear me talk PFF this season because I better put my money where, to good use somehow or another.
I also have a PFF subscription, and just understand PFF does not grade the way the team grades.
Yes, PFF can suck, but regardless, Greg, the eye test. Greg Rousseau to me had a good game. Yes, he only had one tackle. If you look at the stats, but he was getting into he was definitely getting into the backfield. He was pressuring. He looked good to me. I thought that Floyd looked good too. I feel for him a little bit because he probably feels a little bit like shit that he took out Aaron Rodgers, maybe potentially ending his career. We have no clue whether or not he'll decide to retire or not. But Greg had the best PFF grade on defense. Micah Hyde had the second. Milano had a decent score. And Jordan Phillips had a pretty decent score, and so did Benford. Then you got the bottom half. Starting at number 14 was Trey White. 14th on our defense was Trey White. Like, that is with a 45.7. That is absolutely ridiculous to me. Now, put this in context. His coverage score was like a 61 or 62. His run defense, though, was in the teens. Like, no one seemed like they wanted to tackle at all. I was screaming all night long, what in the entire hell? Why are you guys not tackling? You expect this coming from Trey. Like, you expect him to go out there and show that last year was an anomaly because of his knee. And he did not. Epinesa, terrible game. Bernard had like a 43.8. Terrible game. Granted, he was injured all off season. I get it. He's coming in, trying to get over that injury. But like, what are we doing? But the worst freaking thing that I saw was Taylor Rapp, who pretty much started because we had Hamlin out. He actually took a lot of Tehran's snaps. He had a 29.5 PFF grade. Like, we can't do that. Like, so do you feel like the defense, that the coaching staff has seen something that we're not like seeing? Like, why start certain people and make others inactive if this is going to be the end result?
I think a big part of McDermott, I think, has some trust issues. I think it just goes all the way back to him usually not starting rookies. Now, that's changed with Torrance starting at left guard. I think that's because he had no other choice. But I think McDermott has big trust issues. And he's going to play guys that in the past have proven to him he can rely on. My biggest thing, and Sarah, you were at more training camps than I was. But I thought all in all, except for certain teams like the 49ers, I thought were tremendous. The Cowboys, they were okay on offense, but their defense scored 2 or 3 touchdowns and put them in position on short fields. Their defense was absolutely tremendous. There was some really good – I thought the Jets beating us was a very good performance. There was some good – but all in all, week 1 was garbage as far as football in the National Football League.
Wait, say that again? What?
Week 1 was garbage, okay? It was garbage. Now, that does not go to what you've been trying to tell me that week 1 does not matter. I do think week 1 matters.
I think it matters. I just don't say it matters.
It shows preparation, and it shows different things. And I think what you're seeing is this, and I'm going to give you this example. You can sit a guy on the sidelines of preseason, the whole preseason. You can give him 1 or 2 drives in 3 games. You can try to keep him as healthy as you want. In 17 seconds into the first game of the season, he can blow his Achilles and be done for the year.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? I think that teams have really backed off of physical practices. I think they've backed off of preseason game preparation. And I think they're trying to, quote unquote, save guys. At some point in time, to bring up your point of poor tackling, to learn how to tackle or get that going again, you've got to tackle live. You've got to do those things. You can't just thud. There's, for instance, I can do this because I know what they do. I mean, my son plays. They tackle on Tuesdays. They go ones-on-ones on Tuesdays. Their Tuesday is an incredibly physical practice in the season. And there's just different theories right now in the NFL with all the rules that have cut back OTAs, cut back preseason games, all these different things. I think you're starting to see, you just can't show up and go to like an easy spring training like you can in baseball and be ready to play a football game.
But when when you go back to high school and even college, like you don't have preseason games. So I get that preseason kind of gives you a chance to look at other players that, might not have made the team if it wasn't for their preseason. I would love to 2 games, 1 away, one home, 1 away. Make game 1 and 2 or week 1 and 2 of the season make it worth a little less because you have more games now throughout the season where, it's a little, you have more games, as a sample size. When you only play 12 games, like, back in the day, or 16 games, like it's every game matters that much more.
Right. But you say that about high school. In Oklahoma, our high school teams have spring ball. Then from spring ball, they go to team camp, which is they practice against 5 to 10 other teams and have full physical, scrimmages and run plays against one another. Then they go to summer camp.
Right.
Then they have a round robin scrimmage with a couple teams on the first week. The second week they have a round robin scrimmage with a couple teams and they start their season.
But those games don't count towards whether or not they're winning championships and stuff like that.
I'm not talking about games or whatever. I'm talking about physical preparation to get ready to play week 1. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. And I'm just saying I think that they can get a certain amount of that physical preparation, not playing against other teams, playing against, themselves and getting ready so that when they do go out in the field, they feel prepared enough where the game matters because they're not putting their body on the line if the game doesn't matter. They're like the same way. So I don't feel like it's no, week 1 does matter. I'm saying that the 3 games in the preseason or 4 games for if you have the
I get that, but they hardly let them play.
Right. But then now week 1 matters, like so you're going to get out there for the first and second preseason. Make less preseason games. So you got to get out there. You got to figure shit out so that when you go week 1, you're more ready because it matters more.
This is a result of a couple things. First thing being the rules that have limited practices and things like that and what you can and can't do. Adding another game So now they got to save players for another week of the season, which I think was the most stupid thing they've ever done, going to 17 games. And they want to go to more. They want to go 18 games.
18. I think they'll take away another preseason, though, if they do that.
They shouldn't. They should stay at 16. They don't need to go to set. They shouldn't have gone to 17. Then the other thing that's stupid is every level of football, professional and college, should not play on Thursday night.
I agree.
On Thursday night.
We don't agree on a lot, but I mean, as a fan, I love having football, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday. Like, I love that. But I don't believe that there should be Thursday night. And I tweeted out the other day, how amazing would it be if they could figure something out to make college football in the spring and NFL stay in the fall, so that when the NFL is done, college football is beginning. So then we can have Saturday, Sunday, Monday instead of Thursday.
An NFL game, I don't understand why. To me, that's the most dangerous thing they do. And then today I got to open up Twitter, and the executive director of the NFLPA comes on and decides to tell everybody that because Aaron Rodgers hurt himself, we should have grass fields in every stadium. Well, I wish he'd done that when the guy that was, like I said, the guy that was making league minimum, who was fighting his ass off to be the 53rd guy on the roster, I wish he'd have had this much zeal and this much energy about that when he had a season-ending injury. It had to be Aaron Rodgers to come out and make that comment. But then you also allow your players to play on Thursday nights. Right. You also allow your players to play 17 games. I mean,
the same thing. 2 years in a row, we lost Trey and then we lost Vaughn. No one said anything then. Right. I mean, there was some commentary coming out, but it has become a problem. But then you got some people who say that grass fields are the same.
Everybody talks in circles, Sarah. And the fact of the matter is nobody gives a damn because it's all about how much money everybody can make.
Yeah.
And it's all fluff. And, it's like I said, everybody's like, we got to play on natural grass. I played on an exponential amount of really bad grass fields that were dangerous. They were just basically painted dirt. So it's not necessarily just play on grass. It's got to be good grass. And if it's not, I don't think there's – I think when the science – I think the science right now really says it's just like – I heard what's the commissioner's name? Roger Goodell. I heard him today say this. He was on Stephen A. and he made the comment. He goes, yeah, Aaron Rodgers blew his knee out or blew his Achilles out on a turf field. Well, we had a rookie blow his ACL out on a grass field. It happens on all surfaces.
Right.
I think a big part of this is just the fact that we've lost our mind in how much football a human body can take in one season.
Right. I think though, at the same respect, they've done some numbers that it does happen more on certain turf fields. I guess, because the Bills play technically on a turf field. So there's one type of turf that's worse than the others. Like Detroit Lions had the bad turf. The Jets have the bad turf, supposedly. So, hopefully they start, at least removing it, those first, and let's, figure it out. But like you said, the more football you play, the more chance you're going to have of having those injuries. Do you have anything else you want to close out? And let's get this freaking last week, the door shut and just over with. And I'm so ready to say, let's move on to week 2 in the NFL.
No, I just, and we're talking about the game Monday night. I mean, and obviously there's just a really weird vibe going on right now on Bills Drive. And I don't know what it is. And I hope that all this stuff that's popping is just coincidence.
Yeah.
But there's a really weird vibe going on right now.
It's that Madden curse. I'm telling you, I tweeted that out yesterday. This Madden curse feels super real this week.
You got the situation with Terry Pagula that's ongoing. You've got now an in-house staff reporter that had to apologize. Yeah,
she apologized though. She said that it came out sounding a lot different than what she meant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, super great girl. It sucks though, because, her saying anything, especially about someone as polarizing as Diggs, like that is just, it's fuel. It's fuel that, people, especially national media, wants to hear, because now it's, it gives them, more things to talk about. So, but anyways, I feel for her for saying what she said and then having to, obviously clean that mess up. But yes, it has been it's been a weird off season, and it's just not getting any better. Including the way that, Josh has played. So I'm going to say this. We head into Orchard Park. We're home this Sunday. We're 9.5 point favorites against the Raiders. Man, I want to believe that Josh is going to go into the home opener saying, I gotta rectify what happened Monday night, but by not playing hero ball, because my biggest concern is that he's going to continue to do stupid stuff because he feels like he has to make up for Monday night. But I mean, I'm going to preface all this by saying, I think that the Raiders are better than people thought they were going to be. They have some playmakers. Obviously on defense, they have Chandler Jones. They have Max Crosby. On offense, even though it's a new look, with Jimmy G, but they still have Josh Jacobs, which is going to be a huge test for our defense, and Devontae. But just Devontae did not participate in practice today, but it is Wednesday, so he still has obviously 2 more days to practice before they're concerned about him being ruled out or anything.
You talking about Hopkins?
Huh?
Hopkins?
Yeah.
No,
Adams. Devontae.
Adams. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. This is a Raiders offense that I think is better than their first week performance. You talk about Josh Jacobs wasn't in a lot of training camp, which kind of goes in the theme of what we talked about earlier. They had 61 rushing yards last week. That's 30th in the league. Passing yards, 200. That's 13th in the league. Total yards, they're at the bottom part of the league. So it's not a, and obviously we did not have a great performance either, but our numbers offensively are still higher. Defensively, middle of the road. If you watch them, though, their strength on defense is their defensive end play. Crosby's an amazing player. Chandler Jones, our tackles are going to have their hands full again. You talked about PFF grades earlier. Dion wasn't great. His run blocking grade was, and it's what I saw in the game. His run blocking grade was horrendous. Obviously, Spencer Brown. I mean, my mom.
Yeah. I will say that Torrance did well for a rookie.
He did well for a rookie. I want to know how Mitch Morris is. I think somebody said that he was going to get X-rayed. You saw in the game when he hurt his hand and he lost the use of his right arm because of that. He wasn't punching. So there was some pocket collapse later in the game because of that. I didn't even notice McGovern. I mean, I'm
sorry. I was just going to say something like, if he was so why try running it on 2nd and 15 up the middle? Like, never mind. Anyways, we've moved on.
So McGovern was, I guess he was okay. I didn't really notice him too much. But I think the thing that Buffalo, the way they built this team and bringing Kincaid in, it kind of gives that almost like even though we don't run the West Coast, it kind of gives you a West Coast feel, right? You're going to dink and dunk. You're going to take what you can get, and then you hope to hit Diggs or somebody on a big play when it's there. I think the Jets game will be we're going to find out if Josh has learned anything, because I think you're going to see teams emulate this style of defense against the Bills for some time to see if they can do the same thing the Jets did.
Right.
I thought the Jets did, for instance, I was expecting Sauce 2 inches from Diggs. You didn't see that. You saw them having Sauce Gardner play off of Diggs a little bit. Give him
sometimes.
Give him those shorter catches and those types of things. You had the Jets.
Sorry, you talked about Sauce and that push off in the fourth quarter. Just that
Sarah,
Diggs getting flagged for that. I am focusing. You went back to the game and started talking about Sauce.
Well,
So
I'm trying to make a
on
point
you.
about the Raiders, and we're not talking. Just hold on. The point I'm trying to make is I think the Jets' game plan was to play good front seven football and try to get Josh frustrated by having to check the ball down. It was obvious to me that that's what they were doing. It was almost like Leslie Frazier was coaching the Jets. Don't give up the big play, guys. Don't give up the big play.
I don't think they rushed much at all. I think it was like 29% or something.
Yeah, give him the short pass. Give him the short throw. He'll get frustrated and try to get a big play when he shouldn't. And it's exactly what happened. And, that, and then, well, now you got me going back to the game. Obviously, the special teams will kill you. But I think you're going to see that out of the Raiders. I think you're going to see that out of the next couple of weeks. That's what's going to start happening. They're going to make Josh Allen be patient. And can he do it? Can he sit in the pocket and be patient?
Right.
And, the other thing you need to do is get his ass on the ground. He took way too many big hits in that game standing up. He needs to get on the ground. But
that goes to what everybody was saying. Like, you need to use your brain a little bit more, right. Especially about taking those hits. I think that the one thing that the Bills really have to focus on Sundays, obviously, our offensive line. I think someone wrote it, and I think Triggs wrote it. Spencer Brown is going to get torched by Crosby. I think we'll have, either Reggie in there a lot, or we'll have the extra, we'll have Knox or Morris come in. Whatever we end up deciding to do, we'll have an extra body on the line if it's needed. But Josh needs to be smart with that rush, and the small intermediate passes is not a big deal when we're getting the yards after the catch. And the two first games that we had last year against the Rams, and then who was our first home game? I think it was the Titans. That is what we did. It was those short intermediate passes. We had great yards, great yard after the catch. And our offense looked ridiculous. Like in a good way, ridiculous in a good way.
Because what happens if Josh follows the game plan and continues to dink and dunk and frustrate the defense? They do the opposite. They try to bring pressure. They try to play single man, and then the Bills get the big play. And that's what's interesting to me, to see if he can do that. But real quick, looking at the injury report, Chandler Jones is questionable. Obviously, he's had some personal issues.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo questionable with an ankle. Devontae Adams questionable with a foot. DeAndre Carter questionable with a knee. Jacoby Myers concussion questionable. They got a few others. Morig, he's questionable with a thumb. And then you got Jordan Meredith questionable with a calf on the Bills side. Injury report. Matt Barkley. Okay. Kirksey, questionable with a hamstring. And that's it as far as the Bills go.
Right.
So they seem to be pretty healthy. Obviously, again, keep an eye out on Mitch Morse, see what's up with him. But I think, this is a good game for the defense to get right. I don't think that the Raiders, they can get big plays, but I think you're going to see them try to utilize Jacobs out of the backfield, hit some weak spots with Bernard at the middle linebacker. I think that's where their weakness is in pass coverage, although you'll probably see Milano do some of that. But it's a game for the Bills defense to get right, to see if Josh can erase a bad game and be mature enough to do what he needs to do game two. But I agree with you. I don't think the Raiders are as big of a pushover as people make them out to be.
Yeah. Well, before we move over quick over into the college football realm, if everyone wants to start putting in their predictions for Sunday, I have the Bills 37. I think we're going to have, 35. I think we're going to have a really good offensive game, just because I know how Josh usually operates after. So I have 35 to 24.
You took 24. I got 31-24.
Okay. I have us. I literally started doing the math. I was like, no, we're covering. I
still don't see quick enough read and react out of this defense to where they really feel comfortable. And you made a comment. We were talking the other day about defensive alignment. They had a bust in alignment, gave up the big run or whatever. There were some plays that the first thing that popped into my mind was, well, if Leslie Frazier was the DC, we wouldn't give up this big run because we'd have people in cover 2 to get that on the ground much sooner. Now, we'd have other issues as well, but, this is a little bit different defense. I do think that the players are still trying to react a little bit to it and trying to figure it out a little bit.
Yeah. I would like to see the defense come in and play our defense actually played pretty well up until the middle of the fourth quarter. You can't really put it on them after Josh turned the ball over the fourth time. Unfortunately, they pretty much were on the field the whole fourth quarter. So I'm not going to put too much on them when it comes down to it, but let's see, how they react with Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. You got 2 of the best in the NFL that we're going against. So hopefully we can keep the score. Don't forget, I think last year we averaged 17 points a game defensively. So the fact of the matter is, a lot of us don't have confidence in that anymore. So we'll see how it goes. What is your prediction? I gave mine. I know you hate it. I know you hate when I ask you your prediction, but
I already gave you my prediction.
I didn't hear. Oh, you said 20. You said some
34. I said 31-24.
24. Okay, you're right. And then I said yes. Okay. All righty. Are you ready to
Yep.
to switch over to college?
This college football segment on Line to Gain brought to you by Picasso's Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo. Picasso's, your game day choice.
Hey, football fans, the season is here. So that means family, football, and food. But for the NFL's best fan base, it can't be just any food. Bills Mafia only eats the best during the season. And the best is Picasso's Pizza. With 4 great locations in Western New York, it's so easy to treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net.
Picasso's Pizza. Join in. It's live. We're talking college football here. Last 15 minutes of the Line to Gain show on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. Again, I'm the big O, Jerry Ostroski. She is Sara Larson. And Sara started something really cool this week. And I actually enjoy this, Sara. I know you really did good math in school, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I was doing college math as a freshman.
Yep, that makes sense to me because I did not. I was really bad at that. So point spreads and all that stuff don't really usually interest me. But this app on CBS Sports, and if you're watching the show and you want to go ahead and join in, is there a way they can join in?
Yeah, actually, I can put the link on Line to Gain, and then if anyone wants to pick along with us for the 10 games, we're going to be picking 10 games. Every Wednesday, the lineup will be set, and you can go in, pick the games before they start, and let's see how everyone does, and kind of get a little fun with it. A lot of people, struggle a little bit with college football, so we wanted to make it a little fun this season.
I was only 4-6 last week. I lost one game. Really, I lost one game from the spread. The other ones I just flat out lost. I picked A&M over Miami. Obviously, that did not work. The only reason Sara picked Miami is because she went there. There was no other reason. I took a chance on Tulane. I thought Tulane would play a little better defense. They lost to Ole Miss 37-20. I did pick Iowa over Iowa State, as Iowa State has nobody left because they're all at the casino gambling. Colorado won 36-14 over Nebraska. I picked the Buffaloes. Most people lost the Alabama game. I took Bama laying 7.5. Texas wins outright. Oregon beats Tech. And I went ahead and I lost the Washington State game against Wisconsin. I lost Arizona State against Oklahoma State. And I did pick the winner against Auburn and Cal, but I lost it by the spread. So that was my first week. So not a great performance. Hopefully this week it'll be better.
I mean, I like having the ability to to beat you at something. So the fact that I could say that I was 6-4 for that week feels good. Part of that though was I picked my Hurricanes, so which not too many people had faith in. I might not have had too much faith, as well, but I figured with the spread and just feeling good about how we played the first week, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go against the grain. Let me go with my Hurricanes. And they had a little bit of an up and down game in the beginning, but then they just ran away with it, and they looked very good. Tyler Van Dyke, like he's playing the way we wanted him to play last year. So I'm definitely excited about that. But I mean, right now, college football is pretty actually exciting. So if you guys don't watch college football, pick just somebody that, like, especially like right now, if you don't watch college football, be a bandwagoner and jump on the Colorado train. The Colorado hype train is just fun. They're fun to watch. Deion's fun to watch coach. His son is a quarterback, man. His son is good.
Well, let me do this. We always ask Sarah for her game day experience as she goes through coast to coast on her consecutive game streak. I had an experience last week that I never had before that was probably the coolest thing I've ever done at a college football game. So last week, my wife and I flew up to Seattle to watch my son play. Tulsa played Washington. They lost to Washington, of course. Washington, the 8th ranked in the country. They got Michael Penix Jr., who's a Heisman Trophy candidate. They got number 1 picks at receiver. I mean, a very good football team. But we did something known as sailgating. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but Husky Stadium, the one end of the stadium literally butts up to Lake Washington. Mm-hmm. So people from all over, they go to their boats, they've got drinks, they got food, and they get in Lake Washington and they drive over to the end of the stadium and literally drop anchor. And they just hang out, and they call it sailgating. Yep. Hang out on their boats and have a good time. So I never did this before. I had a friend that invited us. His friend has a 60-foot boat, and we did this. And I'm telling you what, you want to talk about a crazy college. This, folks, if you don't like college football, this is why college football is cool. The traditions are unbelievable. And I know they do it down in Neyland Stadium at Tennessee as well, up on the river. But they actually have tailgating spots with docks. So some people buy them. I can only imagine what they cost. They tie their boats up. But in our case, you hang out, you drop anchor, and when you're ready to go watch the game, you have a flag, and you shimmy this flag up the flagpole, and the tender boats see it. They drive over to your boat. You pay them $5. You hop on. You go to they take you to the dock. You hop out. I was literally 75 yards from our seats. It was unreal. Wow. It was really, really cool. So that's my.
It's definitely a dream of mine to go out to a game. So next year the Bills play Seattle in Seattle. So I am hoping that the Huskies play home the same weekend. Very much hoping.
If you do that, go like Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, my dad grew up there, so I still have, his friends, and I still have some family, not much, but I met a lot of his friends growing up, and went to his high school reunions with him, and so I still stayed in touch with some of them. So I will be very, very excited to go and spend a couple of days.
We went down to Pike Place Market, watched them throw the fish back and forth, did a lot of different things. It was really, really cool. Actually, awesome. Had some buddies, some brothers, they're twins. They went up to the game to watch the one twin's stepson plays on the Tulsa team as a DB. Then they stayed and watched their cousin Trey play for Seattle. So then they hung out and watched him play. So they got 2 games that week, and they came back on Monday. So they had a pretty cool experience as well. Saw those stadiums. I never played in the new Seahawks Stadium. I actually played in the Kingdome. And then trivia-wise, in the late 90s when they blew the Kingdome up and were building the new one, they played 2 seasons at Husky Stadium. Fina and I actually played there. We had a game on a Sunday night, if anybody can remember. We played the Seattle Seahawks, and we won that football game. So, but real quick, top 10 of the AP. Georgia's still number 1, Michigan 2, Florida State 3. Texas moves up to 4 from 7. USC jumps up 1 spot to number 5. Ohio State drops 1 to 6. Penn State, I believe, they're just flat. They stayed at 7. Washington stayed at 8. And Notre Dame moved up 1 spot to 9. And the Alabama Crimson Tide dropped to 10. So that's your top 10 in the AP poll.
I will say that the eye test, I feel like Georgia is still dominant. They're still probably the best, but they're not the same Georgia team. So they do have some possibilities of losing this year. We'll find out, especially against other SEC teams. So we'll see how that works out. Ohio State is not the same Ohio State team. I feel hopefully as the year goes on, I can't even say hopefully without getting a bad taste in my mouth. I cannot stand Ohio State. Hopefully they start checking some boxes, because I really was hoping Marvin Harrison Jr. was going to have an amazing year, and he's going to need some quarterback play in order for that to happen. But Alabama, I think, proved early that they are definitely not the Alabama team that we all, are used to seeing. And they have a good chance of not even being in the playoffs this year. A very good chance of not being there.
I think the reason why is I don't think Nick Saban's completely embraced this whole NIL deal. I don't think Saban's allowing the $3 million to. I mean, I know they play the SEC has an allotment that they pay players. So it's not like their players aren't getting money, but I don't think that Saban has jumped into the NIL deal as much as other teams have.
Other than complain about it.
Right, and he's not into the 1 year rent a player or whatever. And so it's a little bit different for them to, remember, they got Bryce Young that is gone. They're trying to put another quarterback in there. They're trying to rebuild their team. He didn't go out and get a bunch of rental players.
Right.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, Sarah, that he's told these guys about coming in and having a chance to play and working. He's not going to go out and go find somebody to come in, to bring in, to jump in front of guys that he's recruited.
Yeah, Daryl just put
what he's doing.
Yeah, Daryl just put in the comments, future Buffalo Bill, Marvin Harrison. You know what? I think this is the plan. Let him look kind of bad this year, so that, he drops in the draft and he comes out, a lot later than top 5 that most people think he can go top 3. So let's see if that could happen. I would love to see it. But currently, at number 3, there's, no way that's going to happen. But, whoever got on the phone with Ohio State to tell him to look bad, keep it coming. So, again, guys, as the weeks start to go on, we're going to have a lot more to talk about with college. We'll have the projections of who's in the college playoffs coming up. I'm going to continue to talk about Colorado because it's been fun watching them so far. A lot of people thought that they might have taken a little bit of a step back against Nebraska after, of course, a very good win their first week. A lot of people thought, and I was one, that I still felt like they were going to beat Nebraska. I just felt like they were going to come out a little bit slower, and they did. It took them a half to kind of get going, but when they did, they're just.
Well,
I don't know.
It's quarterback has been watching Josh Allen film. He throws it to the other team as much as he throws it to his own team.
It's terrible. But yeah, I mean, their team looks great. So I'm looking forward to seeing, how they keep it coming, because as the weeks go on, that pressure is going to be a little bit more and more and more, because not everyone kind of put them in this predicament, especially to be ranked so early in the season. So, and I'm going to keep on obviously rooting for my Hurricanes, who are now number 22 in the rankings. So hopefully
and I love
don't
Deion.
Screw that up.
I love Deion, but is it almost like you're watching the Michael Jordan documentary? Every time Deion speaks, he's like, and I took exception to that, and I took exception to that. And
well,
like,
he had another little nugget today. So whoever
so loved. That has so many people that don't like him.
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes you make people dislike you because it fuels the fire. So he probably doesn't have as much hate as he alludes to. But he had another little nice gem on social media today for anyone who wants to Google or go on Twitter or X or whatever and look it up. It's always fun listening to him talk, though. He's kind of brilliant in that respect. The one thing I will say is when it comes to Dion, we've talked about it in the past. I was a little, conservative going in this year, saying he needs another year to get this football team to where it should be, or where it could be. He hasn't needed the year, and it's because he has some really good coordinators that he's brought on, and we talked about it last week. He's there to kind of manage the team as a like a CEO. He's not there to coach in the sense that we're talking about coaching. Like, he's not there to coordinate. He's there to boost these boys up, and it's working. I shouldn't call them boys, these young men, and it's working so far. So I am going to continue to root for them until they play somebody that I don't want them to beat. But we'll see how it works out in the long run. The one thing I have to say is ACC. I don't know what happened with Clemson. They pulled it off on Saturday, but they looked terrible for the second week in a row. So I don't think that they're where they were hoping they were going to be. But Florida State, it pains me to say this, Florida State looks good. And I think that they're going to end up being ACC champions this year. I don't think that the Hurricanes are anywhere near them yet. And Duke looked pretty decent, and North Carolina is looking okay. They're not as I thought they were going to be a little bit better, but they obviously lost. I can't even think of the running back's name right now, but they still have one of the best quarterbacks in college football. So we'll see how it all plays out this year, but let's go Hurricanes. And like I said, we will start posting our results of the pick'em. So hopefully some other people start joining in, and then we can show last week's results, and we can go forward and show our predictions for the following week and start that going, because it'll be fun as the season goes on to see where we're at.
Yep, we'll do pick 'em. We'll do AP Top 25. We'll talk about key games of the week, and then as we get more into the season, we'll talk about potential playoff teams. But hey, that does it for the Line to Gain show here on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostroski. She's Sara Larson. Hey, before you get out of here, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us out. Hit those buttons, and we'll let's see what happens this week. I'm going to try to be zen. USA. I'm going to try to be zen, and hopefully we have a much different football game in Orchard Park for the home opener this week. If you are up there, remember they got the big what is it, MegaCast?
Yeah, mega podcast on Saturday night at 6 o'clock
at Resurgence. So head on up and
introduce yourself to me. Let me know who you are.
That's right. So anyway, again, Sarah, Jerry, as always, one love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.